This is Striking Gold. I'm Sterling Sincotta. All right, Andrew Bell, welcome to Striking Gold.
Yeah, nice to be with you.
There's probably no more prominent name in real estate. You're obviously the CEO of Bell Group, Ray White Bell Group, formerly known as Surface Paradise Group, Ray White Surface Paradise, and we'll get stuck into that. Just straight off the top, I wanted to declare we've got a personal relationship. I've known you for probably 10 years or so through your daughter Chelsea and son-in-law Matt. But in saying that, I don't know too much about your story, and I'm looking forward to learning more over the next hour or so. And I thought you could start by taking us back to where you grew up and those early origins of sort of getting stuck into real estate.
Sydney. I was born in Sydney. My father was a manufacturer of bicycle saddles.
Was he?
So I guess there was a little bit of business background that must have washed off on me a little bit at that stage. But he was very, very strict upbringing. And my mum, terrific girl. I was a member of four families, so I've got twin brothers and I've got an elder sister. And they're very family-based, very family-orientated, although my father and I didn't really see eye to eye on things. I was the first boy, and he was heavy on disciplinary approach, and I didn't quite enjoy that.
Did you sort of play up a bit, or?
Yeah, well, apparently I wasn't as compliant as maybe he'd hoped for, and that's a bit of it was a sad story. It took a long time for me to come to terms with it, past after he'd passed, and I finally had an awakening that he probably raised me exactly how he'd been raised, and getting out the strap and giving me a good building was probably just the way he was.
Yeah.
But it was a good family upbringing. Really, we had we did go away for school holidays and caravanning and so on. It's a very basic life. Strict responsibilities. We had to study Sunday. Be up, do the lawn mowing, wash the cars, and off to church, and then we'd have a big baked dinner for lunch, and it was family time. And so it was just it was a safe environment to be in. Then I went off to boarding school. I had 4 years at a boarding school in Sydney, St Joseph's College.
Okay, yeah. And where was your family living at this stage? Whereabouts in Sydney?
Well, it sounds better than it is, but Bellevue Hill.
Oh, there you go.
I know.
Okay.
They managed to get Dad bought the place not long after World War II, when Bellevue Hill had actually been bombed. There was a couple of bombs that went from submarines up into Bellevue Hill.
Is
no
that
one wanted
right?
to live there.
Is that
So,
right?
Yeah, so
really?
we got in cheap and held on to it, and we ended up having the worst house in the best suburb.
Right.
But it was a nice area to live in.
I don't think it'd matter today if you still had it.
No. Oh, the home now, it was sold recently for over $40 million.
For $40 million?
Yeah, and I sold it for my family.
Did you?
Way back in the 80s for $390,000.
Really?
Amazing. Don't ever go back and look at your past properties.
No, I always look forward. 40 mil.
So I did that, and then went to boarding school for 4 years. And
So you went to Joey's?
Went to Joey's, and they were formative years. If you had to learn to look after yourself, stand on your own 2 feet. I was possibly a bit of a mummy's boy prior to that, but that certainly shaped me into somewhat of who I am today.
Yeah, okay. And did your brothers end up joining you there?
Yeah, they did. And I always respect the fact my father, his business was failing at the end. Yeah. All the American sort of dragster bikes came in, and they were all the prefab saddles and so on. So his business, being a leather-based business, was dying out. Yet,
so he was hand-making his own saddles?
Yeah, we'd have to go over in the school holidays, and we'd have to go and do our bit to save up some money for spending money by working in Dad's factory.
Right.
A lot of great memories, and even today you still see the odd Bell bicycle saddle on the back of some push bike.
And did he have a shop front?
No, it was a factory. It was over at Erskineville.
Okay. And
at his peak, he had about 40-odd people working for him, and at the end it was about half a dozen.
Right.
And then he kept working right through till he died. He was 76 when he died.
Right. And what did he end up? What did he keep doing? What was he?
Well, he kept doing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
He was just holding on to this failing business.
Wow.
And I think it's part of that mentality is why I have zero ambition to ever finish working. I hear people who want to give up work, and I go, why? It's like it's so much fun.
You want to get asked the question, when are you going to retire? Do you get asked that?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got no interest?
No interest whatsoever. You know, and I'm inspired when I look around. I see the likes of, say, Rupert Murdoch, you know, in his early 90s, still going. Like, he doesn't have to. He's got all the money in the world. Harry Triguboff, you know, I'm selling his penthouse at the moment, 92, and he's as sharp as a tack. And so, you know, that's my ambition.
Yeah. Because what else would you be doing?
Well, yes, exactly. I mean, but it's not you know, you could go and play golf or whatever. It's about exercising the mind. That's why I love the challenges. You know, people say, oh, it's all got too hard or too tough or something. I go, whoa, great. You know, I've got the fear of Alzheimer's, and I think you've got a bit more of a chance of not getting Alzheimer's if you keep exercising the brain. So I love it. And I love interacting with people. So it's not a chore for me going to work.
So you've 4 years at Joey's, and then where'd you go? Did you go to uni?
Well, when I left, no, it was really an institution. You were completely controlled from the moment you wake up till you put your head in the pillow. And so
at home, you mean?
No, Joey's.
Oh, Joey's,
you know, and it was a good. That's not a criticism.
Yeah.
But when I left, I just didn't want that. I didn't want to go back into a sort of institution of any type. So there was no such thing as a gap year, but I was trying to see if I could not have to work for a year or so. But Dad didn't have a bar of that. So he talked to me just before Christmas. He said, if you don't have a job, by the time the new year comes around, he said, I'll have one for you.
In the bike shop?
No, at the Commonwealth Bank.
Oh, right.
And that wasn't an attractive proposition. And I had a cousin came over for Christmas, came to visit us, and I asked him what he was doing, and he was in real estate. I said, what do you do in real estate? So he talked about it, and by the end of that I went, hey, that sounds pretty good. One is I'm out in the street all the time. I'm not stuck in an office. I'm out and about. Two, Dad's going to have to buy me a car to get into real estate. So I'll have a crack at that. But it was at a time when there was a really tough economic cycle on.
What year are we talking here?
That was in 1972.
72, right.
And so I went door knocking to real estate offices, dressed up in my little outfit.
Right.
And I got knocked back time and time again. They said, we're putting people off, not putting people on. And if we were looking for anyone, it'd be someone experienced. And I think it was the first time I really found I had a bit of backbone and determination. I went, I'm going to get a job in real estate. And I just kept at it. And eventually one bloke said to me, look, I can't help you, but go and see Edwin W. Harris. He's involved with the Real Estate Institute and the Estate Agents Cooperative, and if anyone knows somebody, he will. Went and saw him, and he said, look, I'm not employing anyone myself, but he said, I'll see what I can do for you. I'll ask around and I'll get back to you. So I rang a couple of days later. He said, come back and see me. And he did. And he said, look, I didn't have a position. I don't really have a position, but there's something about you. He said, there's something, I just got a feeling you could do all right. And he said, so I'm going to offer you a position as a letting clerk. And I went, what's that? Because I was thinking sales.
Yeah. So
and it was just taking people out to show rental properties.
Rentals, okay, yeah.
And that's all it was. So for my first year, it was fun. Yeah, all care, no responsibility. Just take them out, show them the place, bring back and say they want to rent it. And the property managers would take over. But it gave me a little sense of sales in a way, you know, selling the concept of renting their property. So that was my start.
Okay. And what was the real estate market like back then in terms of brands and chain? Was there chains in the 72? Was one-off?
Hookers were the first that were emerging as a chain. But other than that,
it was just one-off.
It was all independents and it was all about position. You had to be on the corner so you could be highly visible. Yeah. And your letterbox drops to try and get listings and so on. You had to be in the office because people would walk in and you had to be available all the time. It was a very basic by comparison to the marketplace today.
Yeah. And obviously 72, predates most technologies.
All technologies.
Except for maybe the phone and
well, there was no mobiles, but yes, it was landlines only.
And so early on, once you then moved into sales?
Yeah, that was I moved out of the letting clerk and then became a property manager.
Okay.
And that was I think it's such a great way to get into our industry because you learn about property, you learn about blocked sewers, you learn about faulty lights, you learn about rising damp, you learn every aspect of real estate, which I think it gave me a great foundation, but also a great love for real estate. Even today, I get fascinated going out, look at any property. It could be a shed. And I'll go, why did they put the ceiling height that high? And why did they put that over there? Oh, that's a silly spot to be put. So I just got that love of real estate. So I did that for a number of years and then went into sales.
Did you when you were growing up, did you feel you had that sort of, you know, for lack of a term, gift of the gab, or that ability to persuade someone in terms of into a sale? Is that something that you had, or did you develop that?
I was the shyest person.
Were you?
I remember sitting in classrooms and the
That's
teacher would be
surprising.
going across the front, walking back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
And he'd be maybe asking questions of the students in the room. And I would go like this with the guy in front, head in front of me, so he couldn't get eye contact.
Is that right?
I was petrified for my voice to be heard. And I was always the youngest in the class. And I just thought I was dumb because they'd had a year on me. I should have been a year younger in class-wise. And I just didn't feel, I never had confidence. And even when I left school, it was much the same. You know, being in that environment, my family, we were kind of raised to be seen but not heard, that type of life. So even when I was the property manager, it was okay because it was just one-on-ones. And then I was asked to go on to do some work with the Real Estate Institute of New South Wales, it was, of course. And it was a bit of an administrative role with them, but still in my working life, but it was a volunteer sort of thing.
Yeah,
so,
right.
You know, that gave me a little bit of confidence. And then once I was asked if I would speak on something, I just declined it. I just, no way in the world did I think I could ever speak publicly.
Right.
And it wasn't really till I opened my own office, and that was a funny story, but I opened my own office, and then one day I had an auction. We had to do this auction, and it was for the public trustee, and I arranged for an auctioneer to come and do the auction. And the last minute, he took sick,
Right,
and he couldn't do it. I'm ringing around trying to find another auctioneer. We couldn't find one. And my brother said, I know what we'll do. I said, what's that? And he said, you're going to do the auction. So I did this auction, and oh my God, I've seen it. We filmed.
Is it recorded?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah.
And it was, you know, when you're coming from the racing industry, you know when a horse is so far injured that you've got to put it down. People would have thought, I've got to put this guy down.
Oh, really?
It was so bad. But I did it, and then I went, all right, well, you know, we'd save some money if I did the auctions. So I just started progressing that, and then as we got some success, people would ask whether, you know, I would come and speak at a conference or whatever, and, you know, I'd go, well, like 10 minutes? And they go, oh, no, half an hour. I go, I can't talk for half an hour. But, you know, like you grow into things.
Yeah.
And I just grew into it, and now everyone laughs because they go, you know, you just
Can't
talk
get you off the
underwater.
stage.
Yeah.
So, all right, so when you open your business, you open it with your brother?
I went in first on my own.
Okay.
So
what year were we talking
look, I had
here?
a trigger event with this guy. I'd been with him for 9.5 years.
Really?
And he was just gone into his 80s, never married, no children. And I asked him...
And what part of Sydney was this? Were you working
in Kingsford.
In Kingsford, okay.
Eastern suburbs.
Okay,
but
yep.
I asked him, could I buy into the business? And he went, no. I came back and had another crack later on. I said, could I get some security when you want to retire? I didn't want to say when you die, but when you retire, that I could have the first right to buy the business. No. Anyway, that really, it just gave me no confidence of where my future lay. And then one day, it was during another tough period of time in the marketplace, and he'd put a lot of people off, and he kept giving me their work to do. I was doing the bookkeeping, I was the property manager, I was in sales, I was pretty much doing everything. And one day he called me in, and he'd get in about 10 o'clock in the morning and go about 3 o'clock.
Oh, executive hours. Yep.
So he came in and he said, Andrew, why is this behind? Why is this not up to date? And it was just rag to a ball, and I'm going, I said, Ed, it's time. Look, I'll give you a month's notice. I'm
On the spot?
out. Yeah, so I'm out. I said, I've done everything I could.
Wow.
There's no future here. And from that day on, he never spoke to me one more time.
Is that right?
Never
You were there 10 years?
10 years, or 9.5, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So I went and opened up a small little upstairs office, probably not much bigger than the room we're in.
Yep.
And I had about 30 odd properties where I knew all the landlords, and they went, wherever you're going to be, we're going to be. We want you to look over our property. And that was my start. I was upstairs, first floor in a Gardeners Road in Kingsford, and no one knew I was there. And
So you were able to just you have to apply for your own license? Is it?
yeah, I'd already had my license.
You?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I opened up. After about 6 months, I thought, this is never going to work. I've got to get down onto the shop front.
Yeah.
So I thought I could only afford, and I remember it was clear as day, you'll laugh now, and I thought, I've got to find a shop where the rent's about $100 a week.
Right.
Because I thought, I can let properties, and the average sort of rent was in the 80s, 85, 90. I thought, I can let a couple of properties, I'll get the money quick smart, that'll pay the rent. Because I was probably like a lot of people in my 20s. I spent every dollar I earned. I was out having fun.
Sure.
So I searched around and found a spot up in Kensington.
Okay.
And opened up a shop there. And after about 6 months, my brother Greg, who'd followed me into real estate but worked for another company, Williams White and Barden, he was driving past one day, he walked, he said, this is crazy, you're doing it on your own and you've got to lock up the shop when you go. And he said, why don't I come and join you? And I said, well, that'd be great, I'd love you to, as long as you understand I can't pay you. And he said, all right, well, we'll work it out. So he came down and
at that stage, you had 30. You had about what 30 sort of business
about
on
35. I'll probably
on a rent roll.
Yeah, which was.
And were you selling?
Well, I couldn't. I was doing the renting because all I want to do is get quick
so you're
money.
Just focusing on renting.
So when Greg came and joined me, he said, "How about we split the duties?" I said, "You do the rental, I'll go into the sales." And the way she went, we just
right. So it was just the two of you initially.
Yeah, and every dollar we got, we were just totally uncapitalised. We had no money.
Yeah.
So every time we'd get a bit of money, we'd go, we can go buy another filing cabinet. Or we can put another cubicle in.
Okay.
Oh, and I remember once we had a bit of luck. We had this Chinese guy who walked into our office one day and he went, I want you to manage my properties. And we went, oh, yeah, okay, where's your properties? He said, Diamond Bay. And we're going, Diamond Bay? It's really Vaucluse. Right. And we went, okay. So we went out to his place. And there was it was 2 blocks of 6. So it was 12 apartments in Vaucluse.
Right.
So we got the management.
What was the average rental on a property?
I think back then they were like 180, 190, if I remember right.
Okay.
And the fun part was, years later, we'd become good friends with the guy. He said, I mean to tell you. He said, remember that day I came into your office? We said, yeah. And he said, I went to the wrong office.
Oh, no, really?
So you got to have a bit of luck in life. So when we got that bit of business, we went, we can put a secretary on, a receptionist.
Let's go back. So before we get sort of into the growth, so when you get 12 units to lease, were they leased? You had to lease them? Had to rent them out?
No, they were already leased. Yeah.
When they were coming up for renewals and you had to release them, what was that process like? Obviously today it's straight on realestate.com, but back then how were you?
Ads in the paper. Everything was the paper.
Ads in the paper.
Yeah, local papers. There was the Tillect columns, there were the for sales columns,
right.
And you'd stick them in the Tillect columns, you get your inquiries. And
was that really the only way? Was that the
pretty much?
Yeah,
really.
Yeah,
Yeah, you'd put a sign out the front. That was the only other.
Yeah.
Signs and the ads in the paper. And that was the Wentworth
and inspections,
courier
obviously.
Yep, just they'd ring up and we'd like to that place. And even in those days, for rentals, open homes weren't as common because usually in those days you'd only have 1 or 2 inquiries in a week.
Right.
So you'd just go and inspect the property with that one, and then you go back, 3 days later for somebody else had rung and so on. So,
right, okay.
So the business just grew off the back of every time we had, got a few extra dollars, we'd buy something else. And then we got it sufficiently big enough that we could put a property manager on, free Greg and I up to both do sales. And it was just that slow journey that I don't think most people these days
They're not
come
cut
to
out
terms
for.
with. No, they all want instantaneous success.
And so how long are we talking throughout this period that you were at Kensington with your brother?
We'd opened up the office in 81. In 83 was my first real mentor into my life. There's a guy knocked down our door and he was selling American franchises, a group called ERA, Electronic Realty Associates. They just arrived in Australia. And he knocked on our door and it sounded fascinating. They had these two kind of programs that you'd never heard of in Australia. One was a home warranty, which was you buy it from us. If anything goes wrong with the house in the first 12 months, we'll fix it. So it was really like an insurance policy. The second was list your home with us. If it doesn't sell, we'll buy it.
Wow.
Now, you read the fine print.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We'll buy it at about a third of its value.
Yeah, right.
But we just thought, wow, this would...
It's a different way of thinking.
Yeah, this would bring inquiry to our office.
Yeah.
And most of the offices around us, our competitors, were long established. Kevin Haig and a whole bunch of guys that have been in business for 20, 30 years, and we're just the new boys on the block. So we thought, yeah, let's get into that. So we signed up, and I met this guy called
So did
Bob
that mean
Pennington.
rebranding to ERA?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was a combine. It was ERA, the logo, Andrew Bell Real Estate. It was Andrew Bell Real Estate.
Right.
I'd set it up because it was before Greg's time.
Sure.
So I met this guy called Bob Pennington, who was, in those days, the Americans were like, we thought they'd come from outer space. You know, you'd linger off every
the future.
word, and they'd come. They were so progressive.
Yeah.
And so Bob, for whatever reason, took a liking to me. And the most significant trigger event for me, when he asked me this question, who's Andrew Bell? And I went, well, I'm Andrew Bell. He said, no, but who is Andrew Bell? And I said, well, what do you mean? I'm me, you know. And he said, well, I'll give you an example. He said, ask me who Bob Pennington is. And I said, well, who's Bob Pennington? He went for about 15 minutes, and he talked about, you know, that he's the son of his parents and brother and sister, his siblings, and what they meant to him and how they've influenced his life. And then he went on about his church group, and then he went on about his real estate career and his involvement in the community and his self-development. And I'm going, oh, my God.
Right.
And I went, after that, I went and lingered on it for days, and I just went, I'm nobody. I'm nobody. You know, I don't have any great ambition. I'm just kind of wandering along, and I fell into real estate, and you know, I'm just building a business with no real plan, and I thought I'm nobody. I'm just drifting through life. I'm not leaving a mark. And that's when I said, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to spend whatever time I have on this planet and be a drifter, just to be ordinary. I want to be extraordinary. I want to be proud of myself, and I want to look back at the end of my journey and go, I'm proud of what I did. And so that triggered everything that flowed from then.
And how old were you? How old were you at this stage?
I would have
when
been
you sort of going through
about
this?
30.
30 years old.
Yeah.
Which back then is, you know, probably what the equivalent of someone in their probably 40s today. I mean, I think when you're sort of saying the level of development was earlier, you know, back in the 80s and even in the 70s. So you had, at that stage, were you married at that stage?
No.
At 30? No.
No.
So you was single,
Yep.
in business with your brother,
Yep.
and still not really sort of understanding who you were or what your place in the world was.
Well, I never thought about it.
Until you met this
no one-
mentor from America.
I think it was typical in those days.
Right.
People, maybe some people did have parents that were incredibly entrepreneurial or whatever. But in the world I mixed in, yeah, your aspirations was just a good, solid job. Someone sort of entrepreneurial, I guess you'd be a butcher. You'd get the local news agency or whatever. It was those types of roles that today we all see what can be done.
Yeah.
Even through things like your podcast and so on, we get to hear other people's successes, which really stimulates us and inspires us and so on. But that didn't happen those days.
So when you went through that, you sort of started to really piece together who you were, who you wanted to be, and where you wanted to go. What actions did you take? What steps did you take immediately?
We did a course called SMI, and I can't even tell you what it stood for, but it was a
business course.
It was actually one done. You buy cassette tapes,
okay,
and you'd listen to the tapes.
Yeah.
And so you had to do goal setting, in all the different spheres of operation in your world. So obviously your career, your personal, your health, your spiritual, your social, and everything was about the goals you wanted in each of those
Was that
areas.
foreign to you at that stage?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Goal setting.
Really? Yeah.
Totally foreign. And so you then, out of all of this, you produced all your action steps of what you wanted to do and when you do the various things and so on. And they also encouraged you to have a picture on the wall of the things that you wanted. So
A vision board, essentially.
Yeah. So I remember having up there the house on the harbour in Sydney Harbour, and the Mercedes car, and the holidays, all this. And I remember this beautiful blonde with those furry things out in the snowfield, and
Aspen.
I think that'd be a lovely wife, you know. And it's just remarkable. I found that about 8 or 9 years ago when I was moving some stuff, and I found it.
Oh, you found it?
I found it.
Wow.
And I went, oh my God, in some shape or form,
Did you tick it off?
every one of those things happened.
Really?
And it's where I really got that understanding that you have to program your subconscious. If you don't program it, it just evolves in its own way, and it's actually influenced by other people's programming of you.
Totally.
And so I had to credit Bob Pennington and then the SMI.
Yeah. Was the SMI, was that American?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Everything was American those days. And that, I attribute that to just firing me up.
Right. So let's fast forward to relocating to the coast. What year was that?
That was in 89. And we'd been up here, by that stage, Ray White had bought out ERA, cutting a long story short. So we'd been about 5 years with Ray White.
In Sydney?
In Sydney,
okay.
We're one of their pioneering offices. They bought the ERA group.
Right.
And so we were reluctant to go into Ray White because we were going, Queensland? Seriously? Yeah. Nothing good comes out of Queensland. Yeah.
Let's just quickly touch on the Ray White group. So when did Ray White, what year was that created?
1902.
Right.
So it was with Ray. Then Ray passed it on to his son, Alan, and they had opened up maybe half a dozen or so company offices. Alan then kicked on and when his father passed, and he expanded it. And then he passed it on to his son, Brian, who's the current chairman of the Ray White Group. And it was around the time that it was the late 80s, and they had to make a decision. They were fighting a number of groups that were expanding rapidly, LJ Hooker being one, because they had gone into franchising as opposed to company offices. Too expensive. Hookers had gone franchising. Yeah. So Brian had to ponder over whether they would...
Because he was still privately held at this stage.
Yeah, and still is.
Yeah.
So he eventually took the view, we'll never be able to take these guys on and expand at the rate we need to unless we franchise. So he started franchising all these Queensland offices. Right. So we'd met him around that time. But he also knew we had to go national. So it was in about mid-80s that Brian bought the ERA group, and then the expansion was just rapid.
Right. How many did he buy? What was that?
That group
make up?
Was about 80 odd.
80
between some in Queensland, some in New South Wales, and some in Victoria. And we were kind of a key piece to it because we'd grown to be like one of the top 2 offices in the ERA group, and so Brian knew that he had to get us to join to have the rest follow.
Right.
So, we knocked out some deals and we came on board and been with the group ever since. And I have as much love for the group as I think Brian does.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's been so good to me and I've loved my journey with it.
And so in 89, you then relocated to the coast.
We'd been up to a couple of conferences up here, and I had made a flippant comment to Brian White once about when we retire, we'll move up to Queensland. We love it. It's such a great place.
Which was the theme back then. Everybody was going to move to the Gold Coast. Get a $100,000 apartment on the beach and retire.
So when the Surfers Paradise office, the gentleman who had owned and operated that office, had been involved in a head-on car collision on the Ross Street Bridge, and he'd been in hospital for a year with some head injuries, and they said you can't go back to work.
Right.
And so he had put up for sale. So he reached out to us, and he said, when I was talking to Brian White, he mentioned you guys might be moving up here to Queensland. I laughed and said, yeah, sure, in about 40 years' time. He said, come up, come have a look. You know, come. So he enticed us to come up, and I was just got engaged at that stage, and Greg was married, so we brought our partners up, and we just looked over and we went, wow, I reckon they're sleepy up here. I reckon there's an opportunity. Look what the Gold Coast is. I reckon we can really do something with this.
So you thought your competitors were asleep at the wheel?
Absolutely, yeah. And so it then was just like, well, I think one thing I've learned about myself is I like challenges. I like new. I like I can get bored in things. And we've done nearly 10 years in Sydney, built it up to 3 offices. We were kicking goals all over the place, but it was like, oh, a new challenge. Yeah, let's give that a go. So we had 7 days to make up our mind. We did it. And that was we settled and started here in December 89.
And did you sell the 3 in Sydney?
Yeah, it was a nightmare.
Yeah. It was a nightmare to sell?
Yeah, our timing could not be worse.
89 recession?
Yeah. And so that we had to fund one office for the guy to sell a finance, and then he went belly up within 6 months. And we almost gave one away just because we just had to get up here. Yeah. It was just a nightmare. And we thought we were going to sell these and it would be such a simple money transfer, but we lost all of the money. Got chewed up in no time. When we took the office on here was in Orchard Avenue. When we took that office on, the rent at that time, back in 1989, was $16,000 a month.
Really?
A month. I mean, it was the highest retail rate in Australia, Orchard Avenue at that time.
Is this a shop front or is this office space?
It's where the police station is now.
Oh, right.
It was our office. So we were burning
a month.
cash rapidly. We weren't certain we'd make it because we then got the double whammy. We then had the recession we had to have with 16% interest rates. So, we borrowed money to keep us going. And then we had the pilot strike.
Yeah.
The planes were out for 9 months, and so no one could fly here. And I remember vividly one day I can only put like $5 fuel in the car because we had to go and buy a couple of things for food supply for home.
Yeah.
And I thought, I reckon this will be the last week. Because when banks are watching you, everything's fine. Then it's like, monthly report, if you can give us a bit of an update, how things are going, what money's coming in, what's going out. And then it works down to virtually daily.
Right.
They manage you.
Right.
And we were down to daily.
Really?
And I thought, I reckon they're going to pull a plug.
How close do you think you were?
Weeks, I would say. Weeks, maybe weeks. And then we had, you get these little strikes of luck every now and then, but we then, the market had got so difficult and so bad. Faro Building Society had done so much funding of all of the real estate borrowings up here, particularly for Victorians and New South Wales people. The Faro Building Society went into receivership themselves.
Did it?
Because so much of the lending had all gone into default.
Right.
And then a local law firm that we'd become friends with all of a sudden got their work, and all of a sudden we had to pitch for it, compete with other offices, but we started getting all this mortgagee work, and it was what saved our neck.
Is that right?
Because what we had established was we were masters at auctions.
Right.
And you have to auction mortgagee properties.
Yep.
And so the rest of our competitors who were pitching for the business didn't have the expertise in auctions that we did. So we won the business, and away we went.
Wow. So auctioning distressed assets, we're talking apartments mainly?
Predominantly
apartments.
Yeah.
And who were buying these at that time?
A lot of locals, but again, the interstaters have always been a strong component of the Gold Coast property market, particularly apartments. That kind of concept of having a holiday place to get away to, and that it still is today, but it's a completely different makeup to those days. We used to go through these 7-year cycles because when the economy, fundamentally went through the same cycle, when the economy was great, everyone wanted to buy something on the Gold Coast. When the economy tanked, everyone wanted to sell what they had in the Gold Coast. So you'd have booms, bust, was the cycle. And when you understood that, we knew how to operate in all of those markets. And we knew what was coming. And so we just set our strategies around that. So mortgaging was always a big component for the Gold Coast, right through to 10 years ago.
Yeah, you don't see that anymore. We're not seeing those types of cycles anymore. It's been a nice.
The cycle's different.
Progressive.
The Royal Commission changed things, and that was 2017-18. That changed lending criteria, put a greater degree of responsibility back to banks to do better lending.
Tighten up,
yeah. No more risky lending. And then I always say the Commonwealth Games was the trigger event that's really set the Gold Coast up to what it is today.
When you've taken over Ray White Service Paradise, it was the single site at that stage.
Yep.
You went on to build to how many different brands throughout the next 20, 30 years?
Yeah. Well,
how many sites did you end up with?
Without knowing what I know now, it was driven very much by ambition, but it was also driven by this kind of need another excitement. And so we had Service Paradise. We then opened Main Beach because we kind of felt unless you had a Main Beach office, no one would list with you in Main Beach, which was the evidence was that was true. And then we felt no one in the housing markets would list with us because we were Surface Paradise and they thought we just did apartments. So we opened an office at Benoa. And then I could see what was happening up at Hope Island and it was starting to expand and I went, oh, that's going to go off over there. So we opened an office in Hope Island. And then I saw Coomera some years later and I'm going, Coomera, that's going places. We better get into Coomera. Yep. So we opened up Coomera. And then we opened up Sanctuary Cove. And they were the residential-based offices. Then we opened up early in the piece, back in the early 1990s, we opened up the commercial arm. Then we opened up project marketing. Then because of project marketing and the need for overseas sales, we then started to do a lot of work overseas and we had sort of associations with groups over there. And through that, in the early 10s, about 2012 I think it was, we opened up Ray White Guangzhou in China.
Did you?
Yes.
Did you?
Because we could see the wave of Chinese coming and we wanted to capture them at home because they wander around the streets.
So you had a physical presence up there?
Yeah, the shop front.
Yeah, right.
You know, with the Ray White shop front in Guangzhou.
Right.
And then
run by locals?
Yeah.
Yeah, run by locals.
Yeah. And, really English-speaking, beautifully English-speaking people. Yep. And then we started up Ray White Marine because during the global financial crisis, 2008, we had people with boats going, oh, I see how you can sell these properties and it's fantastic. You get them sold in a matter of weeks and you put them to auction and, God, I wish they did that in boats. And I went, well,
why not?
We could do it. Yeah, okay. So we started up Ray White Marine. We started up Ray White Hotels in Australia, which is now morphed into another group. It's still part of Ray White.
So these are pubs and hospitality?
Yeah, pubs
and overnight accommodation. Yep.
And then we opened an office in Atlanta, USA, a property management based.
I vaguely recall
office.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was pretty much the extent. We do have an office in Sydney, but it's just a property management based office.
So how big did the group get? Do you think?
At our peak, we had about 345 people.
Right.
But lots of learnings. You know, that was more ambition than common sense. That was.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it wasn't overly thought out. It was not a strategical plan.
Right.
It was just an opportunity arose. Oh, grab it.
Right.
And grab it without thinking of the consequences, what sort of effect it have on the rest. And that's what I know is that I became the problem because when we started here in Orchard Avenue, we started with 16 people. And somehow we're 110. I remember that 110, I was going, wow.
110 in Orchard?
amongst the core ones.
Yep.
The Benoa, Main
Gotcha.
Beach. Oh, we also bought Southport. I forgot that one. And so my life was hectic, but like it was just seemed like constant problems.
Mm-hmm.
And
now you're managing people more than properties.
Absolutely, yeah. And so I remember this again, you get these lucky kind of breaks. I had a mate of mine that was in the insurance industry, and he said, "How you going, mate?" And I said, "Oh, mate, I'm pulling my hair out." Blah, blah, blah. He said, "I got a bloke you should have a chat to." I said, "Oh, who's that?" He said, "Darren Sherlaw." He said, "You got a business consultancy group?" I said, oh, "Yeah, maybe it's a good idea." So this guy came in, Darren, and he said, "Can I just ask you a few questions?" I said, "Yeah." It was just like 4 or 5 questions. And then he explained business growth and structure.
Right.
And as he'd explained all the consequences and the ramifications of things, I went, "That's me. That's me. It's freaking chaos. That's me." And he said, "Okay." He said, "It's all about restructuring." And so we brought business coaches in, we put them on and stayed with us, full time basically for 4 years. And through that, I learned how to run a business.
So he put in organisational structures, policies, procedures.
And thought processes. A really big part of it was an arm of his operation was a lady that did a whole lot of therapy with you, if you like.
Yeah.
And she taught us things that today are critical to my entire life. Things like whatever happens in life, I created it.
Mm. Yeah, very true.
And I go, yeah, because I used to be a bit of a blame gamer. Oh, well, if he hadn't done that, that sort of stuff. And I go, no, everything, I can see it always. Everything that's happened in my life, I did create it by decisions I made or decisions I didn't make, things I chose to do or didn't do. And so it gave me the greatest sense of relief because I went, if I'm that good, I can create that. Then I can create something different. And I then felt I have the power to create whatever I choose in my world. I have that power. And so it's made me stronger, more determined, and it's been a critical piece of my journey.
So was that the making of Andrew the leader that we know today by bringing in those types of business experts back then?
Yeah, definitely. No question. Yeah, no question. I do a lot of sharing of business structures with people because I feel blessed that I've met these guys and they taught me, and I think that...
When you say people, you mean people in your team?
I'll be on a team. I've had people outside in other businesses, and I've done a bit of coaching with people so on. So I enjoy that because I think I would like others to be the recipient of the good fortune I'd had by meeting people along the way. So, I studied leadership because I knew I had a team to lead.
When you say studied?
Studied other people, I'd read books. I tried to develop myself.
Right. Got to set the example.
As a leader. And a leader's, which I understand a leader's not so much about do what I say. A leader's about setting the example by what I do. And so whether it's hard work or treating others, nicely and fairly or being clear in your communication or that I try to live what I teach rather than just teach. And so when you put your head up, you better be careful because, if you're not projecting who you really are, people come for you pretty quick.
The real estate games, obviously, with respect to individual agents and managing individual agents, there's a lot of ego. There's a lot of individuality between agents. They're not all the same. So when you've got to step in and manage, let's say your top 20 agents, that they're all different.
Yep.
They all have their own ambitions, their own competitive drive. Talk me through those types of experiences, and when you're really having to work more on in the business rather than selling property or managing properties.
Yeah, it's all about the people. The processes are pretty simple.
Because you've got to leverage your time. You've got to leverage you through your top 20 or 30 or whatever it might be to get the results for the business.
I've always valued everyone. So I feel if you take someone on your team, then you've got to invest in them.
No matter the role.
No matter the role. Like to make someone feel less because you don't give them your time is not great for your culture of your business. And so if you only give attention to your top performers, you've got the tail that doesn't work real well because they just go, he only cares about them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have a clear sort of understanding there's three components to a business. There's the revenue people, critical because they pay, their revenue pays the bills.
Yep.
You got the red people, we call them red, the administration team. They don't bring any money in, but the business never operates without them. Every one of them, a receptionist through to HR, every one of them is critical. And then you got management. And all three got to learn to respect each other, work well with each other, or the business just doesn't work. And so, yes, every person, whether it's front reception, whoever it is, you've got to put some time into it. And that became very draining, and that's where in our restructuring, I had to put more people in, more levels of management, so that there wasn't this complete reliance on me for everything. But at the end, I did spend more time with our senior management because I had to bring in branch managers and the like.
Yeah.
And so they would carry some of the load till a point where I realised that structure was even not working for us because in our industry, if you're any good at selling, sell.
Yeah.
That's where you make the money. The people who wanted to go into management weren't good at what they were doing. They weren't making enough money, so they'd look for a management position. So then I was relying on those guys to guide and coach and drive the others.
Right.
So I had to get rid of that level of management, and then I had to dive back in and really be more the hands-on to everything. And then that's when I started winding back a lot of the operations.
Right. I remember maybe famous or infamous, your 4 a.m. Voice messages to your...
They still exist.
Do they still exist?
Yeah.
Talk me through... So for those that don't know, Andrew, you on your morning walks, you'll voice note and send a message to, I don't know, let's say half a dozen or a dozen key people in your business for that day. And talk me through that. And firstly, every message, from my understanding, was individual and specific to that person. Yep. And was it something that you were sort of like a morning motivation? Is it something that you were asking them to work on for that day? Talk me through it.
That evolved. With my workload as it was at the time, I want to be available during the day for anyone, everyone. I get a lot of clients, ring me up and, can I see you? I've got this, we've got a bit of a predicament. I need to... So
external to your business, yeah.
So I knew I wanted to be available. Was critical. Or I'd have to meet, different suppliers and people associated, or I'm trying to develop some sort of new program. And so my day was consumed with that. And in would come all the emails, and I just didn't get time to communicate to those emails. So I'd go home at night and I'd go through, look at everything, and it's not unusual. I have 300 and something emails during the course of a day. Yep. So I'd sort of cull them a bit and go, all right, well, these people can look after that. I've got to respond to those ones. These people I need to speak to. So I'd get up early in the morning because I want to get my exercise in. So I'd get up in the morning and off I'd go with my dictaphone. And that's where people laughed. They'd say, that crazy guy, you see, he's always talking. And so I'd walk around the streets doing my dictation, or along the beachfront doing the dictation. And then I would hear people responding or communicating back to me on some email I'd sent, and I went, you can read the written word and they don't hear it in the same tonality.
Yeah.
They can read it or
different
hear it
interpretation.
Differently. Yeah. And I thought, all right, I think some of these, I can't ring them at 5 a.m. Yeah. I'll just do a little voice message. So I do the text voice and I go, hey, Dave, it's Andrew here, and leave my message.
Yeah.
Because I want to get the messages out, the communication out fast. And like this morning I did one to a guy's birthday and I said, yeah, okay, Anthony, happy birthday, mate. I said, what a gorgeous day. It's going to be a spectacular day. And just before the weekend, I hope you have a wonderful time over the weekend, a long weekend. And It's just personalised a little bit more.
Yeah.
And
Drives
it's
the
just-
culture.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But it is because of the volume of work. It's something that's got to give. And
So you're looking for the efficiencies, about to communicate on.
fundamentally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The involvement of the agents from 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago to the new cadets, I think you call them cadets as they come associates
Yep.
now as they come in today. What are you seeing as the major changes, the major differences that you're seeing from today to, let's just say, even 20 years ago, of those coming into the business and wanting to create a career in real estate?
They're older. Back then, they were older. You had to get grey hair before people started to think you knew
What you're
you're
talking
doing.
about.
Yeah. So 40s and 50s and even in the 60s were typical agents, and no one would really want to deal with the younger ones. I'll use the word loyal. To me, loyalty is earned. It's not just a natural. It's not given. But people appreciated who they worked for more, and they appreciated being part of a team, and they worked more together and helped one another in those days. And so people tended to stay with the same group for a long period of time. I won't go, because of time, I won't go through the evolution, but it's moved, and it's in part because we have what's called independent contractors. So that's people who can run their business within a business. So it's Joe Blow working for, in our case, Ray White, but they're working their own business. They're incorporated company.
So it's a different mindset for them.
Totally different.
Right.
And so it started to create very much the me mentality. And so it's like, I'm not really in your business.
I'm just using you for the
parts of
license.
it. Yes. And so this has gone right through the industry.
Right. Is this the
Everywhere.
Netflix effect?
It's
The Netflix effect, would you say? Is this?
Well,
is
that's
this
just the
part
next
of,
stage of it. Then it was, I have to make myself stand out. But the event of social media, of course, made it so much easier that, and definitely Netflix, and everyone wants to be a film star. Everyone's got to be a character. What's my look? I always feel you dress for the client to impress the client. You don't dress to have a look.
Yeah.
But that's emerged.
Yes.
And so. It's a sad business in many respects. It's very much young now, because most people would go, "Oh, we'll get one of the younger agents because they know all about technology, they know social media and so on." And so there's a leaning towards the young, and there's strengths and benefits in both the young and the old. But people think it's all about the young, but the Zs, Gen Zs. It's going to be a really challenging period of time in our industry, because they just don't want to go down the hard road. They don't want to learn anything. They want to start at the very beginning, and day one, I should be the managing director.
Yeah.
So that'll all sort itself out.
Yeah.
But I think, and this is not confined to our industry. I talk to people in the marine industry. I talk to people in travel industries and law firms, and it's very much a me culture, and I don't feel like I'm part of a team and so on. I'm just worry about me.
Yeah, and wanting things instantly, and wanting things to happen overnight.
Yeah, and they, you can get very full of themselves. But so my job now is to try and recruit the right people, because it's not all about you. We're always stronger together. It's like a star in a football team. If you think it's all about you, you're not going to get the ball unless somebody's in there getting it for you and passing it out. And when you start to truly respect others within your support group, then you're going to be that much better. And we appreciate the work that's put in to provide technology. And in our group, Ray White spent millions and millions every year developing new technologies, but they take it for granted and don't use it till its full extent. And so we will sort through this. I know it's just a phase in the industry, and it will get its levelling ground, and the levelling ground will come when the market gets harder.
Yeah.
At the moment,
Yeah, that's very true.
a booming market
Yeah.
makes everyone look good.
Very true.
And for many sellers, they don't even know what they could have got if they'd gone with someone who really did all the fundamentals correctly. Weren't out worrying about their look and getting my social media done, but were putting the effort into really working that property to get the best outcome for the seller. So that's, there's an old saying about you don't know who's naked till the tide runs out.
Yeah, yeah.
And
That's a good
people
one.
get exposed. So when the tide runs out and the market changes, we'll see a big shift.
We've got the rise of the individual agents and their brands, those still within Ray White that have established their own, essentially a brand under the Ray White license or their master brand. And you've also got that sort of breeding ground of agents that have come through the Ray White system and gone on to make their own individual brands and build their own businesses.
Yeah.
Just talk me through that Ray White piece, and it seems to be a vehicle that you can come through, you can learn, you can build your skills, and then you can go out and essentially sort of start your own business and do very well. Here on the coast, we've obviously seen a couple, and in Sydney especially. So, just talk me through that, and Ray White as a piece for, what is it about Ray White? Yeah.
Well, about Ray White, the roots were Ray, and he was a very principled man, and he was very caring to his community. It started in a little shed out in Crow's Nest.
Right.
And it was literally, he was a stock and station agent that then went on to start selling properties and so on. And then his son Alan came on board, and they were shaped by the war, and as many people were back in those days, but they were shaped by family. And then that continued. They're into the fourth generation now. The White family's very, very close, and they value history. They have this incredible sense that they have a responsibility to carry the legacy of this group into the future. And so there's a different spirit. It's not a corporation. It's much more than most people would think. In fact, Brian Watts had to speak in Monaco recently just about fourth generation businesses. It's near impossible to find any.
I was going to say there wouldn't be many.
No. And so this comes back to that White family principles. But they always were very big on training. And that's the part that you're referring to, that it was known that if you wanted to get going in your career, start with Ray White. They'll train you. And that really does exist still today. But there's another little learning that I think is really interesting in studying now, looking over and it probably would be the same in all industries. Where you start has a big impact on the type of future you're going to have in any industry. If you start with a really good leader, you start with a good set of values and the right training, and you're taught everything well, you've got every probability that you're going to go on and be successful. If you start in an environment that's the opposite, a bloke that doesn't care about the staff and doesn't train you and so on, your chances of being successful are very slim. And so Ray White has produced so many over the years because these others have failed and they're gone, and these ones have all grown and developed and become very successful. So, and I'd like to say that one other defining factor, even within the Ray White group then, is the leaders in each of the offices. So you can get all the training, you can get a sense of the Ray White, but you still got to have that type of leader that invests in you. And I look around the coast, as you referred to, and I often think of ourselves as the incubator of all the talent that's here now, because
that have come through the Ray White system.
Well, it's come through our office, so much of it.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a lovely thing for Greg and my brother and I to go. Yeah, goes back to that. I want to leave a legacy. I wanted to be more than just Andrew Bell, a real estate agent. I did this was part of that vision that you would make a difference. And so when I see other of the guys that are successful running their own business and so on, it puts a smile on my face because I go, I'm proud that we're able to start them off.
That's a great way to look at it. As the opposite would be, you could go with bitterness, you could go with, sort of having the shits with them and becoming more of a taking it more personally, rather than sort of, I think by flipping it and saying, that's a proud moment that they've come through, that you've had an impact in some way, whether directly or indirectly on their business. I think, as I said at the very beginning, it's the Bell surname on the coast is most likely, top of the tree when it comes to property and real estate. Which leads me to the Bell surname, and we're talking fourth generations with Ray White. We're multi-generation in the Bell Group. Your daughter Chelsea's part of the business. Juliet was part of the business. Obviously, your brothers, you got nieces, and I think you also mentioned you've got.
Oh, I've got a few.
Others.
My brother Greg's got two of his daughters in their administration work.
Working with family, how special is it?
Oh, it's loaded with potential.
Well, yes, fireworks.
Yeah, it is.
I think at its roots, though, you wouldn't change it.
No, I remember one particular moment some time ago, probably about 5 years ago, and I walked through the office and went past Chelsea, and Chelsea was driving our marketing at the time, and there was Juliet, my daughter, both of my daughters, and she was doing our data, driving all of our data programs. And then I went down, and there was my niece, and I just went, what I know is they've got my back. What I know is they're here giving and contributing to this business. I thought, it's so beautiful. And I thought, it's also good for them to be there working in this environment and going, this is not just our business. This is business as part of our family.
Yeah.
And so I just had this incredible sense of happiness and pride that we could do that. And they've all gone. And Chelsea's now got two kids, so she's a mum, and she's married my son Lou runs as our Sanctuary Cove office, or his Sanctuary Cove office now. But that's fine. Everyone moves and develops and grows. So, but we've still got a lot of family involved, and we're a very big real estate family, that's for sure. In different shape and form. You go around to our place, it's always a conversation about real estate.
There is.
You'd be the same. You'd be talking about horses, and we talk about real estate.
Yeah.
So it's nice that you can all be in an environment or in an industry that you all kind of understand, love, and love talking about.
And now you're relocated your headquarters to Southport. How important is Southport to the Gold Coast, and how important is it to I guess get it back to those sort of former days back in the late 80s, early 90s when it was I guess firing. I had Tom Tate in a couple of days ago. He was saying how important Southport is to the coast, and the piece around the new infrastructure with the new stadium, event centre that looks like it's been rubber stamped in time before the Olympic Games.
Olympics,
How important is it, Southport?
I think it's really important. We'll all remember the days when you had your children and they got to that latter part of their schooling, and you kind of knew that the only real jobs they were going to get were probably Sydney and Melbourne, the good jobs. And it's an awful feeling that you'd think, kids are going to have to leave to get a decent job. And we've done a great job building our city as a residential base, but there's so much more we can do in building commercial base that needs to support that residential base. And so we have pockets. We have, Rabina's got some stuff up at Coomera and so on, but we haven't really got what any of us would identify as a CBD. Southport is by name, and it has been declared by the council as the CBD. But I don't think anyone driving around would go, oh, there's the CBD.
No.
And it's been overlooked for quite some period of time. Yet quietly there have been pieces that have been occurring that just haven't been really brought together and fully connected. University Hospital, Griffith University, the Knowledge and Precinct, the Health and Knowledge Precinct. Light rail runs right through the centre of it now. And things like the stadium, these are just continuing foundations that are at a point right now that it's ready to go. Now, in terms of real estate, what we always know about population centres is they evolve. So somewhere starts. It might be Broadbeach. Broadbeach, boom, it booms. And the prices go up. The shoulders then eventually go. They pop up because people go, I can't afford to be in Broadbeach, but, what about, I'll go down to Nobbies or whatever. That picks up. And then look at Palm Beach.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no man's land 7 or 8 years ago. And now it's
fire.
Yeah. And so Southport is just ready to go. It's ready to go.
Right.
It's one of the largest postcodes in the state of Queensland. And everyone I'm talking to, it's on their tongue. And this is part of the reason we did the restructuring. I felt like we'd done what we needed to do in Surfers Paradise and broader markets. And it was a new challenge. And I went, I want to change from Ray White Surfers Paradise and go into something bigger and bolder. And so we've gone the Ray White Bell Group, so people know it's us and where you can find us. We've got 4 foundations, which is residential, anywhere on the coast, commercial, anywhere on the Gold Coast, project marketing, and our very large property management. But we deliberately wanted to plonk it right in the heart of Southport to support and to highlight that this is where it's all happening now.
And do we have to drive commercial appeal? Is that where it starts with Southport, do you think? You've got to drive the commercial appeal? Got to get businesses back there.
You know what? It needs more than anything. And even the stadium is an example of it. It needs to have just a couple of trigger events where people go, there's one, the stadium. Yeah. Big injection.
That's 5 years away, yeah.
That's funded by the state government and local. That there's like big statement. Couple of others, Robert Badalotti's done a good job with his developments he's doing. There's a couple of others on the drawing board. One office building would do it. One person to say, we'll build here. And we've got sites. Councils looking to how they can revamp the area, make a better precinct, a better laid out precinct. Yeah. We've got a Chinatown, but it needs a big boost. There's just little loose ends that it wouldn't take much to bring them together. And so we want to play a part in that. We've got the real estate expertise. There's some wonderful people. Invest Gold Coast is going to be a significant partner in a lot of development work in that marketplace. All a part, it's just bubbling, ready to go. So we're really excited.
And in terms of industry, the Gold Coast has been known for forever and a day. It's been tourism and construction property. We're now starting to see education, medical, IT, the rise of AI. Where are you most bullish around the commercial sectors on the coast?
Well, anything clean.
Taking property out of it.
This is the logical thing. Anything. You mean location?
I'm talking more industry.
I say anything clean. It fits into the coast. So all of that type research. You see what's coming out of Griffith University. Extraordinary. World class research coming out of there. And we'll, of course, all the bio industries and so on that will spin off from that. Education. No, where else has 3 universities for a population base of 700,000? And look at the quality of our schools. So much more. We've got foreign language schools and so on. We've got lots we can do in that space. But there's little things that you wouldn't know about. The building of all these jetties that we see around the place. Superior Jetty is one of the leading jetty makers of the world. Bus companies. And I mean, there's just all of those type of industries. There's no limit to it. The one thing that has been holding us back, one thing that will hold us back is key worker housing. It is a problem everywhere, in fact, around the world, that you can trigger a whole lot of new developments coming in. We can get businesses to move from interstate to relocate here and so on. But if we can't house the
where do you put
workforce,
them?
and so it's a big feature I'm working with local government, state government. This is a critical piece because we saw an example in Ireland many years ago. Ireland decided they wanted to become the headquarters in the European Union. They wanted to be all the major corporations be housed here. We'll do tax incentives and then all sorts of things. They started getting some of the businesses. They couldn't find any place for their executives to rent.
Right.
And it wasn't just senior executives, people on sort of 100 grand salaries and so on. So they stopped coming. And so many of them left.
Right.
Now, we'll have the same problem here if we don't make it a concerted effort to make sure we're providing, it's not luxury housing, we're talking about affordable housing for key workers, engineers, nurses, doctors, junior doctors and so on.
Yep.
You can put an IT industry together, but if there's nowhere to rent, they're not going to stay.
Let's touch on the market and specifically in and around that rental market.
Yep.
The Gold Coast is being driven by migration, record numbers over the last, probably say since COVID, since 21, 22.
20, yeah.
Where are we at in terms of an overall market picture? And more importantly, where do you think we're going?
I call the pandemic period the great wealth migration to the Gold Coast.
Wasn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah. It just has brought incredible money. And when we talked earlier on about the cycles are gone because we've not only got the new money, we've got the old money, real money. These people don't have mortgages. And so they're not going to be crashing out. They're not going to have to be forced to sell, if the market goes or the economy goes into difficult times.
Yep.
So we've got a wonderful base, but all of it has been geared towards the top end. Because with
3 million plus?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because what's happened is building costs have been so high that developers have gone, I'm nervous about trying to build something for affordable, $800,000, $900,000, $1 million type purchaser. I'm just nervous. I get cost blowouts and so on, and I can't pass those costs on. But if I build for the very top end of the market, they've got bottomless pockets. Yeah. They'll pay whatever it is. And so we see record numbers of cranes and so on, but it's predominantly for the top end of the market. And what's exposed now is we have not been able to, but it's not only us, it's all over the country.
Yeah.
We just have not been building for the more affordable sector. And hence we have this housing crisis. And we've got a federal government who come up with what on paper would be a good scheme to build 1.2 million homes between now and 2030. It ain't going to happen. Every month we're going backwards.
I think they are, yeah.
And so it's going to continue. We've already seen a significant shift. We used to be one of the greatest homeowners country in the world. We had about 36% of Australians own their home outright. We had about 30% paying mortgages off. We had the balance who were tenants. Well, now the fastest growing segment's the rental market because people can't afford to buy homes.
I've seen some data suggesting it'll be 50% by 2030.
It's more than likely the trend we're going. Yeah. But there's even a problem within that, which is we're not building any rental properties, which is why build to rent has become quite a topical conversation of recent times. It's big in the US, big in Europe.
There's a few popping up here, I've seen.
They are popping up. Hard to make work financially.
Yeah,
There's
you've got
work
to
to be done
balance sheet.
Tweak that up. But the existing rental market we have has predominantly been made up by older people who've owned rental properties for a long period of time. Now, eventually they're going to move on. There'll be a percentage who are just going to go, I'm over that, I've done that now, we just want a simpler life, we'll sell that investment property off and so on. We've not been replacing them. We don't have enough tax incentives to bring people in as investors. And when they started talking about eliminating negative gearing, eliminating capital gains reductions and so on, when you start doing that stuff, people go, I'm not buying investment property. And so the governments need to stop kind of pussyfooting around and have a very clear policy that tracks people in as investors because we need to house Australians. Government's not doing it. You need private sector to do it.
And I think the dream of owning, especially first home buyers, it's slipping. Yeah. I mean, it's slipping in. You can always find somewhere, but it's slipping in the areas that most of them want to be purchasing in, right? So, especially here on the coast, if it's along the beach.
But that's another problem. This is the young people thinking they want to get the house on.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and it's saving. I read only a couple of days ago, you got to save 14 years now for a deposit on average. Yeah. And by the time you save, obviously the market's gapped you anyway. So, some advice for first home buyers.
I just finished doing a first home night, buyers night the other day, because right now is the best government support schemes I've ever seen. Incredible. And it will only last for a period of time. So the key is compromise. And there's another piece I'll come to in a second. But compromise. Don't start thinking about, could I live in here? Is this the area I want to live? I'm dealing with a person now, a friend, and she's going, I just want to be around Nobbies. That's where my friends are. And I'm going, you can't afford it. Yeah. Buy something at Coomera. You don't have to even live in it if you don't want it. Just live where you can afford. Do it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And the other is sacrifice. You just can't save.
It's a challenge for this generation.
Yes. Sacrifice.
Yeah.
Save. Compromise on stuff. Don't get the coffees in the morning. Make your own lunch, take it to work. Don't go to Bali for the holidays. You might have to tough it for 5 years. Tough it. Get a house, you're set for life. Get an apartment, you're in the property game. And you won't have someone knocking on your door telling you they've decided to sell a place and you've got to move out.
Yeah.
But do it as quickly as you can. And it just means I'm going to have to sacrifice and compromise.
Yeah, very difficult for this generation. What would what advice would you give to the 20-year-old Andrew Bell?
To all 20-year-olds or someone coming in real estate? To me?
To you as a 20-year-old. If you, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give yourself?
Get around and meet as many successful people as you can. Try and find out what was the core to them being successful. And I don't mean necessarily running a business. It could be successful in many different ways. Try to have a curiosity, have a bigger curiosity from the very early age. Try and find some good mentors that can steer you in the right direction and work hard. It
Good
doesn't
advice.
come easy.
And are you sort of at the stage of your career now where you're thinking about legacy and what you want to leave and how you want to be remembered in business?
No, if I dwelled on that, it would tell me something. It would tell me that I'm pulling up.
Right.
I'm stopping. So no, I have such big dreams of what we want to do with the Bell Group. No, that couldn't be further from truth. However, way back to when I was 30, when I decided I didn't want to be ordinary, everything I've done since then was under that banner. And so that will continue. And out of that comes legacy. There's already legacy. I see legacy everywhere. And some of that legacies I'm not part of anymore. Things like I got involved with the Commonwealth Games, winning the bid and then being on the organising committee. Well, it's done. I've been with the Real Estate Institute of Australia as a director. I'm not doing that forever. Done that bit. So they're all steps that are forming part of a bigger legacy, but they're little legacies within it.
Well, you mentioned before about just previously about Ray White Bell Group. What is next? What does the next 5 years look like?
I'm expanding. I'm really big on the rental side, the property management, because I see firsthand the housing crisis. So we're buying more rent rolls. I'm working very hard to try and drive investors and get them back into that marketplace and so on. So a big focus on that. Commercially, we're all over the coast, our operations, but we really want to drive into that Southport area. And there are some other fringe markets that we see for commercial, but predominantly in Southport. Project marketing, I'm trying, not that we would not take on high rises, but we're more inclined to, we want to encourage more townhouse development, villas, the likes of that, the more affordable component. So we want to drive that particular part. And residentially, our industry's actually shifted. The real estate offices that are truly standing out are the volume businesses. And
By volume, you mean volume of sales?
Volume of sales. And so, we've been in a blue chip suburb of Surface, and there's others around. Those markets are quite okay. They've been catered for, but I really want to drive that affordable section. I want to try and help as many people into homes as possible. So
suburbs like where?
Well, like Southport.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Labrador, Biggerel Waters.
Largely untapped, those areas, aren't they?
Yeah. And, sometimes a suburb has a connotation. It takes a while for that to change.
Yeah.
I often think about Redfern and Sydney.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't walk through there at night.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing that with
ago.
Chevron now.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, look at that. It's a great example.
Yeah.
Great example. So once you can change that mentality around some of those names, they're there. Boom. They're ready to go.
Well, Andrew, I've thoroughly enjoyed getting to know you over the last hour or so, and I'd like to thank you for joining us on Striking Gold.